I kept pacing the floor, unable to relax, in full fight or flight mode. Listen, if you're watching this explainer right now, chances are you know exactly how terrifying that feels, right? The overwhelming panic, the absolute exhaustion, that feeling that a relentless, screaming sound has just completely hijacked your life. Look, I need you to know right up front, you are not crazy, and your pain is completely valid. Today, we're going to walk through the fire of those early days of tinnitus, and more importantly, we're going to show you the path out. Welcome to The Explainer. If you've been newly diagnosed and you're just terrified about what the future holds, consider this a compassionate lifeline. We're going to look at the real, chronological survival story of a fellow sufferer named Sonia. By diving into her detailed journal entries from an online support forum, we can trace a raw, honest roadmap of what recovery actually looks like. We aren't talking about textbook medical definitions here. This is the lived, day-to-day reality of someone who stood exactly where you are standing right now. All right, let's jump right into part one, the catalyst and the crash. So Sonia's nightmare began back in January 2025 with something so incredibly mundane. She thought her home furnace was making a strange noise, so she stood close to it in an enclosed space for a full cycle. It didn't even seem that loud at the time. But a few days later, bam, she was hit with an absolute nightmare of acoustic trauma. When you map out her actual recovery, you quickly realize this is not an overnight fix. The journey spans many months. It goes from the sheer panic of month 1, straight through the peak distress and constant masking of month 3, before finally getting those first little glimpses of silence around months 6 and 7. And as you'll see, even into month 9, progress still comes with setbacks. If you're in those early weeks, keep this timeline in mind to set your expectations. Healing is a marathon, guys, it's not a sprint. This brings us to a really crucial point: how we handle medical warnings. About 2 months into her trauma, Sonia went to an urgent care clinic. And get this, the doctor didn't even examine her before casually dropping this bomb. Oh no, that's permanent. We can't do anything about that. Let me be crystal clear here. Taking away someone's hope at minute 1 is just cruel. And honestly, it's often factually incorrect. The patient reality, which is backed by thousands of success stories, is that habituation and neuroplasticity take time. We're often talking 12 to 24 months, sometimes more. Do not let a dismissive 5-minute medical consultation convince you that your life is permanently ruined. There's just no way. Moving on to part 2, the darkest months, surviving the first 6. During these early months, Sonia was constantly in a state of high alert. She was absolutely terrified by this myth that if her condition didn't magically disappear in 6 months, a switch flips and it's permanent forever. Every waking moment was dominated by the noise, compounded by the stress of losing her job and just trying to navigate normal life. And it wasn't just an emotional toll either. It was a severe physical sensation. She had a screaming 10 out of 10 siren in her head. Her left ear felt like a heavy water balloon was stuck right behind the eardrum. She literally felt the sensation of wind blowing through her ear, along with pressure and pain that radiated all the way down into her jaw. Because of all this sensory hypersensitivity, she was screaming by on maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. Listen, if you are experiencing this right now, what you are feeling is completely valid. It's an intensely shared experience among many acoustic trauma survivors. Okay, so here is where things start to shift. Part 3, the turning point and practical tactics. Right around months 6 and 7, Sonia finally found a way to crack the dam of her suffering. She developed a very specific, practical method of gradual sound weaning to manage daily environmental triggers without overprotecting her ears. First step, she used cuff-style earbuds, the kind that hang outside the canal so you still get natural airflow and ambient sound. Step 2, she'd play 10-hour cricket or nature sounds on the absolute lowest volume setting, just a whisper. Step 3 is where the magic happens. She began taking the earbuds off for just a few seconds, then maybe a few minutes, slowly exposing her ears back to the real world. Finally, step 4, she transitioned to just relying on normal household background noise. This step-by-step weaning process, it's an absolutely fantastic strategy for anyone who is terrified of everyday sounds. And what was the result of all this gradual weaning? A massive, massive shift in mid-July. Sonia wrote this incredible line, "My brain didn't explode when it was quiet." That is just a beautiful, profound illustration of neuroplasticity in action. For the first time in over half a year, she was able to sit in a quiet room, watch a movie without blasting masking sounds. And eventually, she even slept without sound therapy. Her brain was finally beginning to let go of that constant threat response. That first moment of true quiet, that is the ultimate proof that your brain can and will adapt. Let's look at part 4, navigating unpredictable setbacks. Recovery from acoustic trauma? Well, actually, Scratch the idea of a straight line. It is never a straight line, and your emotional resilience is going to be constantly tested. In month 9, Sonia experienced a really heartbreaking setback. She was out on a quiet evening walk, no ear protection, when a teenager on a motorbike came roaring past her out of nowhere. Despite her throwing her hands up to cover her ears, that sudden, unexpected environmental trigger caused a massive spike. She wrote, "My ears were raging. I feel so hopeless, completely broken." It's a total gut punch, right? It shows exactly how fragile in those early stages of habituation can feel. A single loud noise can plunge you right back into the deep fear and isolation of month 1, making you feel like literally all your hard-earned progress has been erased.
Which brings us to part 5, from isolation to shared understanding. When that horrible motorbike incident happened, Sonia didn't go back to those dismissive urgent care doctors. No, she turned to her online support forum, and her entire reality was completely reframed. A veteran forum member who goes by the name Mind Over Matter pointed out a vital, life-changing distinction: the difference between the words chronic and permanent. Chronic simply means a condition has a long-lasting duration. Permanent implies it will last forever and literally cannot be reversed. By just shifting the vocabulary in your head from permanent to chronic, the whole timeline changes. It goes from being a hopeless life sentence to a manageable, evolving condition where your neuroplasticity just needs a little more time to do its job.
And while she was spiraling from that motorbike incident, another forum member, Escalado, immediately stepped in with this. "Sonia, it's a spike and nothing more than that. Everything calmed down then, and this will too." Man, that is the power of shared understanding right there. When your own brain is screaming that the sky is falling, hearing from someone who has survived the exact same terror is an absolute lifeline. They provided the emotional encouragement she desperately needed, reminding her of her own past successes and cementing the fact that a spike is just a spike. It is not a reset to zero. During this whole recovery period, Sonia also uncovered this truly incredible statistic. Only 1.6% of tinnitus cases are truly severe and persistent, less than 2%. Let that sink in for a second. The vast, overwhelming majority of people who experience this kind of trauma go on to adapt, habituate, and completely reclaim their lives. So if you are sitting there terrified of the future right now, let this tiny number be an immense morale boost. The odds are heavily, heavily in your favor for improvement. Which leaves us with this final thought for today. Sonia realized that when you are sick, you literally cannot imagine ever being well again. Your brain just can't process a future without the siren. But as we've seen from her journey, through the initial acoustic trauma, the intense panic, the daily habit of gradual sound weaning, and navigating those severe setbacks, the human body is capable of absolutely incredible adaptation over time. So the question I have for you is this: will you give your brain the time it needs to adapt? Hold on to hope, protect your ears sensibly, and remember that healing is happening, even when it's just too quiet to hear.